Right.
Well, we have to, again, I want to make sure I give you plenty of time. I want to really get everybody all pumped up for this. It's so exciting to see. Great way to share your art. The Lori Lovecraft Omnibus is coming. Lori is the 25th anniversary. We're going to be seeing stuff here in a couple weeks where it will be available. Let me see if I hit the right button and pinned your website to the top. Let me go back to the chat, see if I can find it. Got it right here. I'm going to pin it to the top, folks. Nope, this is putting user timeout. All right, I have to do it on the other page. Anyway, there's definitely be links in the description over at vosart.com. You can go to vosart.com, and that will be where you can get the information. There will be links in the description. Talk a little bit about the idea of you even doing this, Mike. Where did this kind of, how this sort of birth and come into being?
Well, first off, what you have to understand is the omnibus, this stuff, I started working on it 25 years ago. I mean, when I was doing regular comics, this was in the middle of the comic boom in the 80s and 90s, where everybody was doing their own, there was like a new company, cropping up every week. And I had a friend who was a distributor, said, you got to do your own comic, Mike. And, I'd publish it for you. So I went, okay. And so I started working on this thing. And meanwhile, things kind of, bottomed out, as I was talking about before. And so I wound up, I created the first issue of the comic. And I think I eventually had Caliber Comics. They were a company back then who did the first 2 or 3 issues of these. And I think we did 5 or 6 of them all together. And over the years, I've continued to draw stories with Lori Lovecraft in it. And again, she came out of Tales from the Crypt. Every week when I show up on the on the set, there'd be this new young hot actress who was in somebody's movie or was somebody's girlfriend, and she had the lead in the show. And 6 months later, none of us were ever going to hear from her again, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
And that was Lori. I mean, Lori was just, one more of these, these beautiful young women who had no idea where to go with what was happening with them. With Lori, she decides to turn to sorcery. She's not really any better at sorcery than she is at acting, but at least it makes for some interesting stories. The other thing for me was in drawing the stories, it gave me a chance to cast all of my favorite actors over the years. So, I mean, of course, in the first story, there's Boris Karloff. In the second story, there's William Powell. In the third story, it's an Alfred Hitchcock character. Fourth story, you've got, Robert Mitchum. The fifth story was a road movie with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. And so for me, it was this labor of love. I got to draw these characters, continue to draw Lori. I mean, and she was just a conglomeration of all of the, the beautiful blonde of the, and actually Lori's a redhead, but so I mean, I was looking at Anne Margaret, and Jane Fonda, Catherine Deneuve. I mean, they were pretty much my models for the character. I had a lot of fun doing the thing. And my agent, James Mealy, said, Mike, she's going to be 25 years old, which was, of course, kind of the joke of the series was that at 25, Lori had to retire from movies because she was already too old. Working in comics, I could relate to that. So I said, hey, that's a great idea. We'll do a 25th anniversary book. So I put together, the previous stories we did, and then we did a couple new pieces, and there's other little, there's lots of, like there's a pinup section in there. There's like I said, there's a new story. One of the things
There's
is
also like prints and stuff too. You have special prints that people can add on for only a few dollars, man. It's just these beautiful prints that are they're just beautiful,
right.
gorgeous.
I also put together a full color comic book, which I'm selling separate, because all the Lori Lovecraft stories were always in black and white. And the other thing is the Lori Lovecraft stories were always about Lori and her career in Hollywood and the people she met. I figured that when Lori was in Hollywood, she also made these really cheesy films, because that's what an actress would do in those times. So this book is actually, one of Lori's films called Dark Inheritance, with her and her boyfriend Bob Hope, or in this case, Alan Roberts. So it's like it's a Lori Lovecraft movie. And at the back end of the book, long before I did Lori Lovecraft for Star Reach Comics, I used to do a feature. I used to do Linda Lovecraft. What I discovered about Linda Lovecraft was everyone I met constantly was asking me, "Oh, you're the one who's doing those Linda Lovelace comics." It was, of course, Linda Lovelace was, the big porn star at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no. And I was always interested that, like, aunts and my aunts that I knew, and people I'd run into, they knew a lot more about porno stars than they did about H.P. Lovecraft as a writer. So it was like,
Yep.
okay. So I did 4 or 5 stories for Star Reach with Linda Lovecraft, and they were fun. But I mean, I had absolutely no idea who this character was, other than like, she's fun to draw, and I was doing the same thing. I mean, I was doing a Casablanca pastiche, and they were about movies for the most part. So when I did Lori Lovecraft, I did the first smart thing was I talked my friend Peter Venvrella, who was into movies and producing documentaries and things, into writing the series, and he brought an infinite step forward in terms of what I was doing. But in the back of the book, like I said, there's some of the Linda Lovecraft stories, and there's also one that was never published that we're talking about G.I. Joe. I did a story where
hang on, let me switch my. There we go.
Characters. I don't know. I'm turning this the wrong way. I'm sorry.
There you go. You got it. I was trying to. I pulled the other screen up. Yeah, look at that.
So I put together this
shadow right there.
A story where Death comes to visit Lori Lovecraft, and meanwhile, she's staying at the same place where this convention of all these fighters who are all the Cobras and the GI Joes, and are going to get into a major firefight. And of course, the villain behind this is Cobra Commander, and he gets unmasked. And of course, I did have a bit of fun. It's like when he's unmasked, he's actually was, I did my little Larry Hama drawing there. So I haven't chosen Larry yet, so I'll probably get an angry phone call someday.
I was gonna say Larry's gonna be like, "Wait a minute."
No one knows who you are in this story, Larry. So it's
I'm gonna have Larry sign that page for me. I'm just gonna put a little sticky note for my kids, and like, yeah, that's actually Larry right there.
Well, it's funny because I never took the story past just doing little pencil sketches. I mean, they're basically little storyboards, and
right.